Here I have one of those odd mini PCs that, well, for starters, not really mini, is it? This is a small form factor PC, but it is in fact a reused motherboard. So Minis Forum, under the name of the Atomman G7 Pro, have gotten hold of this particular motherboard that they've been able to repurpose for this PC as you see it. So it has a very powerful chipset in there. It's got 24 cores, 32 threads. It is the Core 9, the 4900 HX. So that's Intel, of course, super powerful. And they're running it up to about 150 watts. And then we do have the RTX 5070. It's not the TI version, unfortunately. So it's got the 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and it does have a 115 watt or 110 watt power limit to it. We get a 1 terabyte SSD. It has Thunderbolt 4, Wi-Fi 7, and a 2.5 gigabit LAN port. So spec-wise, very, very good. Now, it isn't quite out 100% yet, so I don't know the pricing. I know it is going to be expensive, so I'll be running through my usual. I'll give you the full pros and cons that I've discovered of the Minis Forum Atomman G7 Pro. What is included from Minis Forum with our G7 Pro is you get some paperwork. They give us a heatsink for the spare SSD slot and some rubber bands to secure that into place. So it's just a piece of alloy, and it has the thermal pad on the back of it. We get a rather potent power supply. This one is 280 watts, and then our stand, and off camera there's screws for that stand. So like what we've seen before with the previous models, it has this alloy design. This is the intake vent here, and then the fans, they are top and the back of it, they blow the hot air out. And it is basically a repurposed laptop motherboard converted into a PC. I wouldn't exactly call this a mini PC, but more of a small form factor PC. Logo here, and this is all made out of this alloy with this nice gray paint job and finish to it. Now the ports are decent. Along the front here, what we get is two Type A's. These are USB 3.2 Type Gen 2, sorry, so 10 gigabits per second. Type-C USB 3.1, 10 gigabits, audio jack 3.5, and SD card reader, also at the 10 gigabits per second. RGB light at the front, so you can adjust this through the control panel or just turn it off completely, which is probably what I will do. And here we have the different modes. So we've got a gaming mode and a work mode. Now, work mode's a lot quieter than gaming, gets a bit loud, but it's really pushing the power limits. Power on button with status LED. Along the back, we've got 2.5 gigabit LAN, a USB Type A again, and HDMI 2.1, and this is USB 4 Thunderbolt, USB 4, and our power in. This is the exit vents for the cooling. There are 3 screws along the bottom that you need to remove, and then the top cover, the one with the vents, that just pulls off. So you're able to clean these fans quite easily. Here we have our 2 RAM slots, so it supports DDR5, and we've only got, look at that, just the one slot that is occupied. So that's why the performance, I think in some of my tests, is a little bit lower because it's running in single channel. So it should be dual channel. So they've used a 32 gigabit stick, and if you put another one in, then of course you've got the 64, and just try and get the same type. So have a look here. We'll have a look at the brand because I believe it is, yeah, it is. Okay, Crucial, which is great. So they've used Crucial. Find that exact same spec, and then you won't have any compatibility issues. Now, we do have a PCIe 4 SSD, 4.0, not 5, but this slot, or this one of the slots here does support PCIe 5 spec. So if you wanted an even faster SSD, well, you've got that. So you can add more storage and then upgrade your RAM. Wireless card, Wi-Fi 7. This is an Intel card. You can also upgrade and swap this. Not that I think you'd want to, but maybe for compatibility of running like Linux or something, you want to have MediaTek there for that. But I doubt it, this being an Intel chipset to start with anyway, for things like people are doing Hackintosh, it's just not going to work because it's not AMD. Anyway, there are plenty of copper transfer thermal pipes here. You can see we have a total of, well, separate ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It looks like the internals here, especially the design of this fan, very similar to a Tongfan ODM laptop motherboard, or maybe an Asus Predator or an MSI. There's a very similar look to it that I've seen. So the BIOS here is a bit disappointing because it isn't fully unlocked. No. So all you can do is basically turn on secure boot. It's disabled by default for some reason. and a few other little settings, but no power limits, no advanced tweaking that I like. No, all you've got is to disable speed, step, hyper-threading if you want, and some other kind of boring stuff they don't really need. Although auto power on, if you're going to run this as a server, which would kind of be weird with the dedicated graphics, you could do that and have it automatically power on. So you could put it on a switch, whatnot. So that's really it. And then your boot settings in boot order. So disappointing BIOS. The included software is the control center we have, and it gives us information on our fan RPMs, GPU and CPU you can see there, lighting effects if you want to control the RGB at the front, and you cannot turn on for some reason the under settings here, the graphics card mode. So it's always the mux switch is, well, off. It's always dedicated graphics. There's no integrated. So we're not using the Intel graphics, integrated graphics. It's always just the dedicated. In a way, that's kind of the best. It gives us the best performance. And we've got quick cooling. You can put it into the turbo fan mode, which is super loud. And I don't really recommend doing that. And overall, it's fine. You've got your work mode right there and your gaming mode, which is controlling the fans and the power limit. Now, looking at Windows, it was an offline setup, which in a way is good. Didn't have to go through that, what is quite a pain setup that you have to go through about 100 screens. Well, it seems like that, but it's not that many. So it is Windows 11 Pro. And we've got the 32 gigabytes of RAM that I showed you before when we looked at the internals. And that's at 5600 mega transfers. And you can upgrade that if you want to 64 or 96 too as well. And then the Core i9, that 14900HX with its 24 cores and 32 threads. When you look at the device manager, you see that the Wi-Fi 7 card is the Intel BE200. And we also have the Realtek for that 2.5 gigabit LAN. And our GeForce RTX 5070, that's 115 watts, this particular version that's in there. I know there's other versions, I think, that have a little bit more, or 110 watt, maybe 140, or that could be the TI version, but still good wattage there. And Geekbench shows us that it's got quite a bit of power to it. Now, multi-core score, I expected this actually to be a little bit higher. I think it might have hit some thermal throttling, and that's a result. So it could possibly do better there. Single core, 3000, also very good. And just a couple of other synthetic benchmarks on the 3D side of things, just so we've got an idea what the performance is like. And you can run this benchmark on your own hardware to see if your laptop or your mini PC is going to be worse off or better. And that is the graphics score through 13,615. Very good. Not the highest I've seen for an RTX 5070 laptop version. CPU score, excellent. Almost 17,000 points there. Puts it in as being, well, better than most gaming laptops, well, from 2023. And it is, as I showed you, gaming laptop internals set up as a mini PC. Still Nomad, a graphics score of 3027. That's good, but not the highest for this particular GPU, but still in the average. Ballpark, good figure there. So it has some performance to it. Now the SSD, it is able to support PCIe 5.0, but we've got a PCIe 4.0 SSD in here, 1 terabyte. And of course, you can upgrade this if you want. The speeds they're good. Not the fastest I've seen the writes, but it's still absolutely fine right there. And the last benchmark that I will be running here is Cinebench. We got with Cinebench 2024, single core score of 126. That's great. And multi-core score of 1512. So obviously with that RTX 5070, even though it's got just the 8 gigabytes of VRAM, it can game at 4K. This is The Witcher that I've set to the high preset, and it's looking very good. So around 100 frames per second. Of course, if you want 120 4K, then you would have to just lower the visuals down a little bit. But this is an older title, so it's not the most demanding game. Then a gaming benchmark. This one is Shadow of the Tomb Raider 1080p on the high preset. And that gave us a very good result of an average of 206 frames per second. Cyberpunk 2077 1080p. Now I have it set to the high settings, but I turned off resolution scaling because I want to see the raw kind of performance we do have. That gave us a great frame rate of an average of 132.25 frames per second. Thermals are interesting. You can see that it has gotten itself up to 100 degrees Celsius. That's very hot. I mean, we've got the 24 cores, 32 threads there. In fact, it hit 107. Wow. That's on the CPU package. And this is why I say that I think definitely some thermal throttling. It's in telling us right there, yes, we have had thermal throttling on this. And it's pulled up to 150 watts on the CPU. That's quite a bit there. And fan noise, well, here's a sample. It gets quite loud, especially when gaming. So there's a few things to keep the video short that I'm just going to mention now instead of actually showing you. So 4K video editing, very good as you can expect for this spec of PC. So that's why I haven't shown it, because it was really quick. A minute of footage takes around about 26 seconds to export with Adobe Premiere Pro. 4K video editing, and that's 4K 30 export, the standard YouTube preset. Great there, very good for video editing, not just gaming. Now Linux, if you're running, depends on the distro, it'll run. What I discovered was I did run into a problem with the Wi-Fi 7 driver with my Linux Mint distro that I was testing out. Now, it could be because I had a slightly older version, but there's just that to fix really, and everything else was working fine. So the GPU is going to work, the CPU, and everything. So there's no, of course, touch screen or touchpad or anything that can complicate things. This being like a cut down, of course, laptop without the screen and the keyboard. Speaking of that, now, depends on your region. I know in Europe, laptops are more expensive with this kind of spec, but if you're in the US, you can find RTX 5070 laptops with similar kind of CPU performance, probably for maybe even cheaper than this, or around about the same price. Because I don't know the exact pricing at the time of this video, but I believe it's going to be expensive. I believe that just under 2,000 euros, maybe say 1,800 or 1,900 US dollars. It's pricey. It has a good spec, but factor in that if you've got a laptop, you'd have a battery, you'd have a keyboard, touchpad, portability, and even a screen. Because this is a repurposed laptop motherboard, it's quite a weird small form factor PC. I do like it. I like the power it has. Fan noise in the gaming mode is annoying, as I pointed out. It's not great. It's a gaming laptop, so it gets loud. And even though the cooling's good, we saw thermals get up to 107 degrees Celsius. So that's my view, my take here on the Atomman G7 Pro from Minis Forum. Thank you so much for watching this review.